Hey everybody, welcome to the show. We have the cash flow guy. He is at the cash flow underscore guy on Twitter. Go give him a follow. Cash flow guy, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
Thanks for having me, Jack. Good morning. Excited to be here.
Yeah, good morning. So before we get into your renovations that you're doing on your house, you had posted on July 14th about 5 projects that you're working on your house. So I want to take a step back. People like to get to know where you're coming from. What was your relationship with money growing up?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think everyone is kind of idiosyncratic about where they spend money, right? The way I think about it is like a snowflake, right? No two are the same. So, someone's going to think travel's really important, and someone else will think that's a complete sham, right? You need to be spending your money on a car, right? And everything in between. So, I mean, growing up, my family had money. Like my mom was a lawyer, um, but my parents definitely were not strategic at all about what they spent money on. They have a high degree of vitality, right? So living life was really important, and that's a good thing. So we did a lot of cool activities that cost money. And looking back, I feel like I had a pretty rich childhood in that regard with experiences. But all of their money ever is in one house. They've refinanced it like 8 times because they're only thinking about cash flow, and they're after living there for almost 30 years, their current amount of debt is larger than the initial purchase price.
Okay.
Right. So that's kind of crazy. So and they'll be okay. They have a 401k, whatever. But I definitely was motivated from kind of seeing how they operated, um, to really do to really implement some strategies where my money works for me. I'm big on financial freedom, right? I'm a CPA, so accountants work pretty hard, and I think it was really obvious to me, like quickly out of school, looked up the corporate ladder and said, okay, those people are making a lot of money, but they seem really unhappy. They're missing their kids' birthdays. It's not like you get to a certain point and work less. Like if anything, the politics and everything create a situation where you have to work more. So my relationship with money has evolved from, yeah, just wanting to, take what I make and do more with it, and then liaising that into actually achieving freedom, and being able to quit the 9 to 5, which I think is pretty cliche, right? You hear it a lot, but it is near and dear to my heart. So a lot of what I do is really geared towards that, and different strategies, different ways. I love doing research on it and finding out about new debt vehicles and construction. And I think I have a decently high risk appetite. So I feel comfortable diving into things that are new to me, which, people say is risky, but it's like if you never try anything new, then you'll never really learn anything new. So anyway, I'll stop rambling there, but that's kind of my evolution of myself and money, I would say.
Absolutely. I mean, you're not trying to hide it. You even say you're a leverage lover on Twitter. So now, can you explain to the audience how you got into real estate? Was it tracking some of your clients during your CPA work, or how did you stumble upon real estate and decide, like, yeah, that's my vehicle that will propel me to where I want to be?
I come from the Bay Area in California, right, where houses are just prohibitively expensive for young people, right? Your entry level is pretty much $1 million, and it just goes up from there. So I was initially thinking like, all right, I'm not going to be able to have any real estate for a long time because it's expensive. And then I think at one point I saw Bigger Pockets content, or maybe it was Raw Built on YouTube, one of those two, about investing out of state. I hadn't thought about that before. So then I started going on Roofstock and Zillow and seeing like, oh wow, I can buy houses for like, pennies on the dollar compared to the Bay Area, right? So that was kind of new to me. And then I met this one super rich guy in the Bahamas. I was on a solo trip in the Bahamas between jobs. And he was telling me that he just has one house that's like his foundational house, and he just basically paid it all off and then has this huge home equity line of credit. And he just uses that to buy another property, pays it off again, buys another property. He's bought like over 100 properties like this. I don't know if that's all true or not. But so I think it was these few kind of data points where I started to piece together like, all right, I can afford this sooner. I can use one to buy two. I can use two to buy three. And it started coming together like I think I can build this kind of snowball And I'm focusing on earning more right now so I can finance the snowball. And then it's just a matter of what's the best way to build a snowball the fastest. And that's where I think all these different debt vehicles and adding square footage and short-term rent versus long-term tenants and all these other kind of levers you can pull come into play. But yeah, initially that was my realization. And I think somewhere along the line, I decided for myself, real estate was the best asset class because it has a really unique intersection of like, there's obviously appreciation. You have crazy tax benefits as well. And then someone else is paying down the loan for you, right? So you have all these things working together, and then obviously cash flow if you're renting it out. So it's people look at houses and say, okay, 2-3% a year. What's so great about that? Okay, well, if you leverage it, that's 10 to 15% a year. Right now, you have cash flow coming from the rent. Now you have tax benefits. Now you have this and that and that. And when you put an IRR number to it, it's pretty unrivaled, except for really risky asset classes like crypto or startups, things of that nature. So at one point, I was kind of just looking around, what snowballs could I grow? And it became like very obvious real estate was the most powerful, at least in my opinion.
You mentioned IRR. I feel like this is one of the most misunderstood or like little talked about metrics, and it's very long-term focus. Is that typically what you're using to analyze properties? Is that kind of your go-to metric?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I'm a big modeler Excel guy. Some of it comes from work, a lot of it's self-taught. Um, but yeah, no, I like to use IRR. I don't solely rely on IRR because I
Mm-hmm.
think, like with all metrics, it has its limitations.
But
But it's a great data point to look into the future and understand in present value terms, how things are going to play out. But it's also just loaded with so many assumptions.
True.
When you're thinking about, okay, well, what's my variable rate going to be in 7 years? It's like, you don't know. Like you're plugging in a number. You can do, a base case and a sky high case and try to, do a
Mhm.
sensitivity analysis and figure it out. But like once you get that far into the future, it's all a little BS anyway. So then I think that's where I start to see like, okay, I don't feel as confident about this. I can make this model say whatever I want it to.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So let's get into the tweet about the 5 projects you're currently working on. Now, is this your second house that you're doing? And how
Correct.
did
Yeah.
you and why don't we go over first? How did you finance this property?
Yeah. So I guess I'll take a step back and start with my first property, if that's
Sure,
okay.
sure.
I think the progression kind of makes sense. So we were living in the Bay Area. I mentioned looking at other markets. We ultimately decided Colorado Springs was kind of a booming market. Um, so this was during the pandemic. Also, I was living in a tiny apartment in the Bay Area, paying an arm and a leg for it, and working in my room and all this stuff. So I wanted space as well. So Colorado Springs, a lot of people getting priced out of California and New York who can work remotely are moving to Denver. Right, all these Denver residents can't afford Denver now, so they're moving to Colorado Springs. So that's kind of like the trickle down market growth philosophy there. So yeah, and we decided to build. I think building a house is amazing because you don't have to make the full down payment, but you enjoy the appreciation, which is crazy powerful if you think about it. Like we put 3.5% earnest money down, nothing else. And for 14 months they were building. And during the 14 months, the house appreciated 29%. Right. So the day we closed, we had 29%, call it 30% appreciation already. We made the rest of our 20% down payment, which is 16.5%. And yeah, we already had 30% appreciation. So leverage, that's 150%,
Now
simple.
that 3.5% earnest money down, and
Mhm.
you're saying you don't have to pay the end part to the completion, and you mentioned a tweet about this too. It's often a year later. Now, what
Yeah.
kind of loan is that exactly, and how do you go about? What is there a name for that type of loan?
It's just a conventional mortgage.
Okay.
It's It's not special, I don't think. Like basically a lot of the builders partner with lenders. So in this case, I think we worked with Loan Depot, and they'll have
Okay.
little incentives, free AC, new fridge, whatever. Um, so I thought the incentives were going to be like shiny bubbles to get you to go with a worse rate. But then I shopped around the market and they actually had the best rates too, plus the incentives. I was like, okay, we'll do this. And they were familiar with the builders, the timeline, the process. And that just is what it is. Like when you get the house, you finance the house. You're not going to pay the builder until you get a house. And it's not like a custom build where you're making milestone payments and it's a smaller company, right? This is a track build. So they have models. They know exactly what it does. They build, I don't know, 50, 100 of the exact same house that year, probably. So they're giving you a finished product. And if you back out, they could sell the house to someone else. So they're not really taking on too much risk there.
Okay. So this is like a model type of home. Okay. So that was the first one. So that was Colorado Springs. And did you actually live in that house?
Yeah, so we lived there for 15 months.
Okay.
And we were able to get a home equity line of credit there, which is another thing I love. And that's a pretty meaningful form of financing coming into the second home. We got, a decent six-figure amount on the line of credit. Just again, I think we got kind of lucky with the appreciation. Some
Yep.
luck, some picking a good market, the timing element, probably more luck. So then fast forward to property number two. This is in San Diego. So we bought this property, conventional loan, 5% down. It's much, much smaller than the Colorado Springs house. So that's an adjustment for us. But the kicker here was, again, growing neighborhood that we really believe in a lot within San Diego. It's called the Claremont area. It used to be kind of a workers class or working class, neighborhood built in like the 50s, 60s. But it's right next to Pacific Beach, La Jolla. It's like 10 minutes from the water. So all these people who same kind of trickle down thinking, right? People who can't afford by the water are going a little more inland, and we're like that next stop. So you're seeing all of these homes being remodeled and new restaurants and all kind of the indicators that you would typically look for to forecast growth. So that's item number one. Item number two is the garage has already been converted to an ADU. So it's a one bed, one bath unit. So when we were buying it, we said, all right, rates are high, prices are high, which means our mortgage payment's going to be high, right? We can do it, but we don't love it. We don't like feel that good about it. So we were looking for somewhere with a situation like that where we could collect rental income and it would kind of help supplement the mortgage payments.
Can
So
you
that was
talk a little bit about that ADU permitting?
So a lot of challenges there. I don't think we need to get all the way into this, but basically the seller warranted to us in the disclosures and on Zillow and just throughout the transaction that ADU was built up to code by licensed contractors, not permitted, but in compliance with code such that you could just get it permitted as is. That was the understanding.
So
Now,
it already had like a kitchen and a bathroom in it already?
it had a bathroom. We were going to need to add kitchen appliances, but they had like gas hookups and water hookups and
Okay.
yeah. So it was just going to be like cabinets and an oven. And then we thought we could get a tenant into it. But then what happened was, I guess we went to hang ceiling fans and then we noticed the ceiling was like a little loose. And then we looked at it and it was like 6 inches lower in the center of the room than in the corners of the room.
Okay. And
so we started having these red flags come up. So we had a contractor come out to look at it and they were like, yeah, this isn't right. So this is very much in progress, but what's going to happen is we're going to incur a bunch of money to get this thing up to code. It was a material misrepresentation throughout the transaction, right? And the seller is a real estate agent. So it's not like some ignorant person. Like she kind of knew what she was doing. So basically we actually just started talking to lawyers and we're going to have to get into this whole legal battle. So that's going to be
Uh-huh.
no fun, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
I'm being told we have a strong case, but you never know.
Hmm.
So that's what's going on there. But I mean,
Okay.
we need to do it. We can't put someone in there right now because it's structurally unsafe. Like the ceiling could fall, kind of situation. So we need to do it. Hopefully, we get back, the money. This was such a good deal overall, anyways, for some of these other projects that we'll talk about. That 80 grand, 100 grand in the long run is still gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Um, but if we can get back, all or most of that, it would just allow us to build more things quicker.
Hmm. And I guess just from when you were forecasting it out or projecting, like what was the budget to get the ADU up to rentable, and then what did you project that would rent out at?
Yeah. So I'm always really conservative with my modeling
Sure.
because I feel like if it works that way, then if it comes in under, it's just gravy. So I said 20K.
Okay.
That's just for appliances and cabinets, the design, the labor, right? The quotes I was actually getting for the kitchen were like around 12K.
Okay.
Um, so then that's just a cushion for whatever else comes up. Um, and then yeah, I think we could rent it for about 2 grand a month.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
Um, we were looking at maybe doing an STR as well, because
Mhm.
there's a little like patio outside we could put a hot tub on and some lights and make it kind of, the whole experience. Um, but yeah,
So,
that was undecided.
so was the kitchen model you mentioned in the tweet, is that what in like the main structure, or was that just in relation to the ADU?
The kitchen remodels in the main structure.
Okay.
Uh,
So how's that going?
so we haven't started on any of these yet.
Ah,
So
okay.
we moved in 1 month ago. So this is
Okay.
pretty recent. So we've hired we had a bunch of contractors come out, do quotes. We interviewed them, looked at their other portfolios, whatever. Ultimately, we went with a drafter slash architect. So we're working with him to get plans built right now. Going back and forth on concepts and whatnot. The kitchen remodel is a pretty obvious one because it's one of these old houses where the kitchen's like small and really like isolated. It has
Hmm.
all these walls, and then the living room's right on the other side of the wall. So if you just open up the wall, it's like a very obvious value add opportunity.
Gotcha.
We'll do that. We'll make a little island, some bar stools. The big one we're excited about is an addition. Um, Part of the reason we like this lot so much is it's big. It's it's not a corner lot, but it's on a radius part of the street. Like it's a curved
Uh-huh.
street.
Okay.
So if you think about it, like the front of the lot is much wider than the back of the lot.
Gotcha.
So on either side of the house, there's like space. So on one of those sides will be this ADU garage, so the walkway, and like I said, the hot tub. There's like space over there. And then on the other side, we're gonna do this addition, which I think we can do a dining room, right? Because right now it's the small kitchen. There's not really like anywhere to sit. So we'll do a dining room where you can put a table and look out on the street, and then a nice big primary suite. Um, right now the main house is 2 beds, 1 bath. So it'll take the 2-1 and make it into a 3-2. Um, Also, laundry is in the backyard right now over by the ADU. So I think we're going to make that laundry just the ADU laundry. And then we'll put probably like stackables in a closet in this primary suite as well. Um, so that's the plan there. Not too many finishes or anything because it's not a kitchen,
Mhm.
right? The dining room's just space. The primary is just space. The bathroom will be where we incur money on finishes.
Mhm.
Um, but for that kind of project, I think the price per square foot is on the lower end, right? Because you're not doing too many crazy like infrastructure type things, right? It's really just walls. Um, but it's going to add a lot of value because right now, I think the main house is 729 square feet. We're looking at adding 450 or 500. So it'll come close to doubling it.
Wow.
And then it's going to have a really nice primary, which I think is, it's more of a heartstring tug when you look to rent or when you look to sell, right? The owner, the tenant comes in and says, wow, I'd like to live in this room. This looks nice, as opposed to just having like 2 rooms that are pretty equal, which is what it currently has right now.
Hmm. I
So
see.
yeah, excited about that one.
And to do the addition to the dining in the primary suite, how much does that cost? Or what are the types of quotes you're getting? And how much do you think that will increase the value of the home?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be more tangible once we have these plans finished.
Hmm.
Because I thought we could get a contractor right away and have them come, and some of them do give you quotes, but it's kind of BS because it's like, well, what are you quoting? You don't really know what you're going to build.
I
And
see.
then the ones who are more honest say, go get plans done and then come back to me. Right.
Okay.
So, but what we're seeing is basically anywhere from like 250 to $375 per square foot. Um, so if you multiply, I'm going to pull up my calculator here. If you take, let's say the kind of halfway point, 325 a square foot, and we'll say we're doing 450 square feet, 325 times 450, 146 grand. Um, and in terms of value, that's going to add, I mean, again, kind of crapshoot, hard to
Hmm.
say,
Yep.
but I mean, I think it would add a lot of value. I think it would be, because if you think about, so again, just doing math, right? The we bought this for 935 and it appraised at 935.
Okay.
Uh, and that was for the main house, but also the ADU, which is a total of 1,004 square feet. So if you divide 935 by 1,004, you get 931 per square foot,
Cool.
$931, and we're paying
Mhm.
325,
It's like a triple.
right? So it's like a triple. I don't think these new square feet will be as valuable because I think as houses get larger, the price per square foot kind of reduces,
Yep.
right? The diminishing
Hmm.
returns. Um, but let's say instead of 930, it's like 550, right?
Hmm.
That would still be
Yeah.
225 profit per square foot, which would
Cool.
be pretty meaningful.
Very cool. Awesome. So now that you've moved to San Diego, I'm sure a lot of people are asking, how did you go about managing the Colorado Springs house? Do you have a property manager in place? How are you operating that?
Yeah, so the answer is Hemlane, one of the best products I've ever used. I tweet about them. I'm hoping they'll reach out and offer me some gigs, an ambassador or something. We'll see. But it's so far this is unpaid, me just telling you because I think it's a great product. So it's basically an all-in-one, one-stop shop property management software. And what I mean by all-in-one is the services I'm using them for are one, the listing, right? So I type up a listing into their standard template and they post it to pretty much every website you could think of, right? Zillow, Trulia, apartments.com, all these websites. So within a day, I had just tons of inquiries. Um, and I was able to get it leased up in 48 hours. Uh, they also provide you a premium subscription to Rocket Lawyer, which has different contract templates. So that helped me create a Colorado specific lease agreement and look at the different laws, the pet security deposit and all these things, get that figured out.
How about
We
actually
signed.
showing the property? Do you have to physically be there, or do they have agents that will go and show a potential tenant the property?
Yeah, so they have both. I showed it because we were still living there at the time,
Gotcha.
but for my next cycle, they have lease agents that are local to the area, so you can I think pay them a small fee and they'll do all the showings for you.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's pretty cool. We ended up signing a 3-year lease, which is really nice. Trustworthy family that seems really nice and responsible, and we've got rent escalations during the 3 years as well, so that's all good. Um, and then the property or the product Hemlane has a 24/7 maintenance repair service. So if the tenants have any issues, they call them, right? I don't need to deal with it. Um, we ran all the background and credit checks through there. I'm doing automatic payments through there. It generates financials. It's just great. And then so I pay for like the deluxe model that has all the bells and whistles. It's $60 a month, right? So I'm renting for $3,600 a month right now. So that's 2% to me. But the kicker is that the fee doesn't go up when I add properties. So
Okay.
we're gonna get this ADU up and running. We're gonna build a second ADU here in the backyard, get that up and running. So we'll have 3 tenants on this platform probably in like 2 years or so.
Okay.
And I'll still be paying $60 a month. So
When,
as you can tell, I'm pretty
uh,
excited about this tool.
I guess one question I had on the like maintenance, you said 24/7 coverage up to a certain amount. If you have like, caved in roof, like you would just have to take care of that yourself, or how does that get managed?
Yeah, so there's a dollar limit that you establish where it's like you would need approval if it goes
Hmm.
above that dollar limit. Um, I think I did 500. I'd have to check. It's been a little while since I set it up. Um, but yeah, I mean, there are situations in which you get called, right? Obviously, it's your house, so you can't just like pretend you're gonna never deal with
Uh-huh.
anything.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're not getting like the hey, my toilet's clogged at 2 a.m. I think that's the
Hmm.
classic scenario. Like if that happens, I'm not getting called. If they like light the whole house on fire, I'll probably get a call.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, well, this is pretty cool. Definitely gonna check out Hemlane. Yeah, I mean, I pay right now 10% of gross rents to my property managers, so people
Hmm.
can compare and decide what's best for them. But
Yeah.
okay, as we close out, I like to ask everyone, what is the best and worst piece of personal finance advice you either heard or received?
You got some good questions here, Jack. Gotta say. I would say the worst piece, I hate just the traditional model. It really grinds my gears. Like just
Okay.
go to school, get a degree, max out your 401k, just do that, work, don't ever take any risk and do that like your whole, until you're 65. That really bugs me. I think it's inherently flawed. And I think that over time, the heavy majority of people have like accepted this as gospel. Like it is the way, doing all this other stuff is too risky or they don't want to. And that's just like, there are just better ways. You can just not be doing a job you don't like for 43 years. Sometimes you don't need to go to college. You do, and 401ks, I think there's better ways. So I think the worst thing I've heard is just be a sheep, don't have your own ideas, just like follow along this trajectory. I really don't like that. And then the best piece, I think I'm going to combine two here.
Sure.
It's one that not every investing strategy is good for every person, right? Like you'll see me on Twitter, I bash dividend investing sometimes. Why? Because it's not good for me, right? And I like to stir the pot a little bit.
Mhm.
But there are people where dividend investing is perfect for them, right? They don't have the time for real estate, they can't take the risk, whatever, and they're investing in a certain type of dividend stocks, or if you reinvest over time, the yield increases, and it's a good model for them. So, although I playfully do tease the dividend investors on Twitter, um, I do think that all investing strategies have a place in this world for different people. So I think like as an investor, when you figure out, okay, you want to invest, you want to build wealth, it's on you to really have like an honest conversation with yourself about what am I comfortable with? How much effort do I see myself putting in? How will I feel if I lose 50 grand? And like understand these things, not just who you want to be, but who you actually are. And then like tailor and customize an investing strategy that works for that. So that's piece one. And then piece two, also cliche, you just got to get started. The amount of people I talk to that are just waiting for prices to drop and rates to drop, and they've been waiting for like 10 years. I can't count them on one hand. Like most people I know are acting that way. Um, People won't go into the market because 2008 the market went down, or I have family members who like will see that I had success in the market and then they'll be like, all right, now I'm investing, and then their stocks go down and 6 months later like this is going down, this sucks, and then they like sell everything at a loss. So obviously that rubs me the wrong way. But I think people, no one's going to come and like do it for you. If you want to do any of this, if you're interested, if you're inspired, you have to go and learn. All the resources are there, right? You might make some mistakes along the way. That's probably okay in the long run. But yeah, you have to just literally get started and take action.
Well said. Personal finance is personal. So well
True.
said. Okay, so cash flow guy, why don't you tell the listeners where they can go to learn more about you or get in touch with you if they have more questions?
Yeah. So I mean, right now I'm really just on Twitter. I guess X is the new name. So yeah, I'm at the cash flow guy. There's an underscore between flow and guy, spaces between the rest of the words. I respond to all my DMs. At least for now, I'm sure eventually I'll grow to a point where that becomes tough, but not there yet. But yeah, no, would love to comment and engage. If anyone has questions, they want to talk about this stuff. As you can tell, I love nerding out about all things real estate and investing. I could, this YouTube show could go on for 10 hours and I, would not stop for a breath. So happy to have those conversations.
Yeah, well, I think the listeners will get a lot of value out of this, and hopefully we can have you back on.
Yeah, would love to come back anytime. Just let me know.
Thanks.